Hi everyone, my name is Valeri Karpov, or just call me Val, and today I'm going to be talking about some of the things I wish I knew when I first became an open source maintainer. So a little bit about me. I started building Node.js apps around 2012. Node was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I was immediately hooked. I started blogging pretty early about Node, mostly at thecodebarbarian.com. Recently, I've been working on a new blog called mastering js.io. But my blogging work at thecodebarbarian.com mostly led to me taking over as maintainer of Mongoose, which is, as David mentioned, is a popular framework for Node and MongoDB in early 2014. So in this talk, I'll talk about how I got started as a maintainer of Mongoose and kind of lessons that I've learned from 4 different phases that I went through as the maintainer. I've been a maintainer through all sorts of different setups. I started out maintaining, being paid to be a part-time maintainer. Then I switched to being a full-time maintainer at MongoDB. Then I switched to being a maintainer kind of as a side hustle. And now more and more in the last couple of years, I'm thinking about how to make Mongoose and maintaining Mongoose into a sustainable business. So without further ado, let's get started. So how did I get started with Mongoose? So I started working at MongoDB in 2013 after a previous startup that I had worked on folded. That startup, our backend was all Node.js, and we made heavy use of Mongoose. I still remember the first time I stumbled across Mongoose, we shaved off pretty much like half of our backend code base just in one PR by introducing Mongoose, and it was amazing. So I was immediately hooked, and I thought Mongoose was the best thing that ever happened. So in 2014, when MongoDB 2.6 came out, I saw a great opportunity to put in some pull requests for MongoDB 2.6 support, right? So then one day on the air train to JFK Airport, I saw this tweet right here from the previous maintainer of Mongoose, a gentleman by the name of Aaron Heckman. He had worked at MongoDB for a couple of years and had recently left. So he tweeted that he was looking for someone to help maintain Mongoose, and I couldn't reply fast enough. Aaron gave me push access pretty quickly because he knew I worked at MongoDB, so I started pushing code and I started shipping releases, starting with version 3.8.8. So yeah, don't let anyone tell you that mindless Twitter scrolling doesn't pay off sometimes. So right when I first got started maintaining Mongoose, I worked out an arrangement with my employer at the time to work part-time, kind of 1 to 2 days a week on Mongoose. And the rest of the time I was working on the internal CI project that I was originally hired to work on. It was kind of Go internally, Angular on the front end. Pretty cool stuff, but I was much more excited to work on Mongoose because Mongoose just gave me this amazing opportunity to kind of own and grow my own project. I was a couple of years out of college. I never managed a project that was anywhere near this level of complexity or adoption. So I saw this incredible opportunity. Mongoose was still relatively small. I think at the time when I took over, according to NPM stat, it had maybe about 30,000 monthly downloads. At this point, it's probably more like 3 million. It was relatively small at the time, but it was growing rapidly, and I was really excited to work on it. So my goal was to kind of switch to working as a full-time maintainer. One, to kind of prove that I could do it, and also to kind of, I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to kind of do things my own way. That was really what drove me to take over Mongoose and try to grow it. So I think the big takeaway that I learned from this time was to really never be too proud to take an opportunity when it's presented to you. Sean Wang recently came out with a great book called The Coding Career Handbook, highly recommended, great read. One of the lessons that he so eloquently stated in that book was basically pick up what they put down. I think I did that very well with Mongoose because previous maintainer just didn't want to work on it anymore, and so I just took over. I admit, like, taking over someone else's project wasn't really my first choice. Like, ideally, I would have wanted to kind of build my own thing and be like the guy for it. But on the other hand, the opportunity was too good to pass up. I was really excited. So and in hindsight, I am so endlessly glad that I took it. So fast forward to 2015, and I finally achieved my goal of switching to the MongoDB node driver team, and I was working on Mongoose full time. I was really excited, mission accomplished. But one of the reasons why I ended up switching to full time, or how I managed to justify it at least to my employer, was that Mongoose was growing rapidly, and I was just getting swamped with GitHub notifications. Started getting when I first got push access, I got about 12 GitHub notifications on the first day, after probably not having gotten 12 GitHub notifications in the last 3 months, and just kept on going from there. So I always felt like I was behind. 1 to 2 days per week was just barely enough to even review the inbound lead, or not the inbound leads, have like inbound questions and inbound support requests, inbound features, bugs, etc. So so that's how I justified it to MongoDB. Probably the best part of working full time on Mongoose was the opportunity to focus more on writing blog posts and building video courses. I think Mongoose's growth had a really rapid spike kind of in the middle of 2015 because of the release of the EdX MEAN Stack course. So I got a lot of practice in writing blog posts and producing video courses, and kind of got that all compressed into a really short time window. So it ended up being a really great time in my life. But and yeah, Mongoose grew rapidly, but kind of what I wish I knew. Mongoose was doing well, but my career at MongoDB wasn't really doing as well as I would like. I don't think I really did enough to sell Mongoose's value internally, especially to the engineering executive. They kind of thought of Mongoose as like a finished project that didn't really have much growth to do. And to be honest, I didn't really do a good job of telling them exactly how it needed to grow. So my career kind of stagnated, raises kind of stagnated, and rents were going up quite rapidly at the time in New York where I lived. So I found myself getting rapidly priced out and needing to make a move. So probably the biggest lesson, hardest lesson that I learned from this time, this period in my time maintaining Mongoose, was like, really just doing good work isn't quite enough. You really need to take the time to promote your work internally. Like I get it, I'm an introvert. A lot of developers are introverts. I'd always hoped that just keeping my head down and doing a good job would be enough, but in my experience, it unfortunately isn't. So you should always make sure that all people you should make sure to get people to notice all the great work that you're doing. So I ended up leaving MongoDB and joining a small startup called Booster that does on-demand gas delivery based out of the Bay Area in San Mateo. Ironically enough, Bay Area had a lower cost of living, or at least San Mateo did at the time. So I negotiated a sponsorship arrangement to continue working on Mongoose, kind of moonlighting. And it ended up actually working very well for the next couple of years. I made a good bet on Booster. Booster has grown rapidly and has continued to grow. When I joined in 2016, they had just barely raised the Series A, and right now, like, the company's annual revenues have grown to in excess of 100 million, and they recently raised the Series C. So doing extremely well. Mongoose adoption grew rapidly as well. I managed to kind of continue successfully maintaining Mongoose using all the things that I learned in my time as a full-time maintainer to kind of do work more efficiently and in less time. And I think one thing that really helped was really improved my career trajectory. I kind of got out of, I was still a junior engineer when I left MongoDB, and at this point I'm, I guess, technically staff level, which is really cool. I'm really proud of that. Income, net worth, all those things, as well as the downloads per month on Mongoose, all grew quite rapidly over this time frame. So I guess that kind of the controversial quip that I will summarize this lesson is that job stands for just over broke, or always be side hustling. The quip is a bit of an exaggeration, but it does make kind of the important point that it's like when you're just working on one thing, it's easy to stagnate when you just hit a wall. And if you're doing something a little wrong, maybe you just need to kind of take the time to focus on something else and see what perspective you can bring to the thing that you're stuck on. So it's not necessarily just income either. career and skill growth also helps from, or also gets a lot of help from side hustles. I don't think I would have been like as effective as maintainer of Mongoose if I hadn't gone through the time as working for Booster and building out their backend, because it kind of gave me the opportunity to really apply the work that I was doing on Mongoose to kind of production code and see where things were, what things could be improved, what were some common problems that you could get when running MongoDB and Node.js in production, and kind of seeing how you grow a team around Node.js and Mongo, and kind of baking all those lessons into Mongoose over the next couple of years. So yeah, always be side hustling. So now fast forward to 2018, early 2018. I found myself needing to move east for personal reasons. So nowadays I live in Miami, Florida. At the time, working remotely was a bit of a concern for Booster. They didn't really have very many engineers working remotely. It was either I was, well, one of the first. So I found myself thinking like, well, if I'm stuck out in Miami where there isn't very much of a tech scene, would I be able to find another job if Booster decided that this wasn't working out? So I found myself wondering whether Mongoose could be a sustainable business that could sustain me in the event of losing my job. Necessity is the mother of invention. So turns out that people had actually heard of Mongoose by the time I moved out to Florida, which was actually was a very pleasant surprise for me. I guess I hadn't gone out to talk to people as much as I should have. But I started going to meetups, talking to people, meeting people that really wanted to help, and a lot of people did some. There were a lot of people that really did a lot of great things to help Mongoose grow as a business. So one of our early OpenCollective sponsors was Mixmax, who I met their CTO at the SF Node meetup, something like that. Some Node.js meetup in San Francisco, I don't quite remember. But they basically strong-armed us into starting an OpenCollective, and that ended up doing quite well for us. Also in 2018, the fine people at TideLift reached out to us as well, helped us kind of get some, and so we got involved with TideLift, helped us grow our income as well. And a lot of other people, WinCode, the code school here in Miami, a bunch of other people have been really helpful in kind of helping Mongoose grow as a business. So I think the big takeaway that I got from kind of trying to grow Mongoose as a business is like when people have heard of you, it helps open doors that would otherwise not be available to you. And that means that blogging and doing open source are a much higher ROI than you think, because it's not just the immediate return, it's the fact that if you help someone out later on, they will be more likely to help you out and reciprocate. So you don't need to exactly be a celebrity, but if people have heard of you and you have helped them in the past, whether by a helpful blog post or a neat open source project that really saved them a lot of time, they're more likely to help you out in the future. So kind of like the bonus lesson, or kind of like the takeaway that I took from all of these phases, is that the project really sticks with you through all phases of life, or as long as you want to stick with it. So I've switched jobs. I moved across the country twice, but I will keep working on. But Mongoose will stick with me for as long as I can, for as long as I manage to keep on working on it. Jobs might change. I might gain clients. I might lose clients. I might switch blogs. But Mongoose is going to keep going for the foreseeable future, and I hope to keep working on it because yeah, taking over Mongoose was one of the best decisions I ever made, and I highly recommend anyone who wants to get into open source, you should do it sooner rather than later. Just a quick little shameless plug. Mastering Mongoose is my new ebook. Got a discount for js.la. I'll drop a link in Slack if you guys want it. And thanks for listening. Here's a picture of a cute little baby Mongoose. Really appreciate your time, and I hope you got something out to talk. And we'll talk. I'll be on Rambly if you want to talk more.